Here we go. Hope, okay. Well, no one's here yet, but I'm gonna talk like they are. Right? That's the thing. That's how you do this. You gotta, they call it faking it until you make it. And then you still keep faking it, but at least you have an audience. But anyway, no, it's been, we've had, 1 to 4 people in here at a time. Past couple of weeks, and that's cool. I'm happy to have them. Because we got to start somewhere. Someone's got to watch for more people to watch. So appreciate you if you are returning. I hope my mic sounds okay. I think it does. Working on my setup here. I've got my tissues here, of course. I've got my water, my Brita, my Britter, my water, and I feel insane. I've been working remotely past couple weeks, because if you are returning, my ankle is broken. Old lefty here is kaput, as they say. So I've been working from home, and today is yesterday's tomorrow, and yesterday I went back into work for the first time. Just kind of got around on crutches. I can drive my car because my right foot works. So I went for it. And, because of course, couldn't keep working from home because can't just do that. Can't just work remotely. But anyway, yeah, so I went in and it went fine and that was good. I wouldn't even say I was like that exhausted from it. Honestly, like I get more tired from work in normal times, and this was just one day. But I don't know. It's a little exhausting to use crutches. I will say that. But I've had trouble sleeping lately too, so that could be why. But anyway, I got home last night, and I had some food, and immediately fell asleep. Like that is not who I am with sleep. But man, I was on my couch, and my wife is away because there's other shit going on too. We're fine, but just there's other shit she had to go deal with, and so she's away. She's been away like pretty much the whole time. It was crazy. She was here the day I broke my leg. I was supposed to go with her out of town, and so luckily my family live nearby now, so they've been able to help me. But anyway, I'm home by myself. I get home from work. I eat a little food. I fall right the fuck to sleep on the couch, and it's great. I gotta elevate my leg. So I woke up a couple hours later, and got my wedge pillow, brought it back out to the couch, because if you know me, I am a couch sleeper. I love sleeping on couches. I don't know why. Like, it's usually, most couches are pretty comfortable, but it's nothing really too much about couches themselves. But it's just the fact that it's fucking couch, and it's out here in the living room. It's in the normal place we always go, and not in a fucking shrine in the bedroom. Like, I feel like it does something psychologically to me to like have to get ready for bed and do brush your teeth, like do all of the fucking pageantry of getting ready for bed. And it kind of puts, I feel like psychologically it puts pressure on me. I'm like, fuck, I gotta sleep now. And you get in bed and you're just like, well, I'm just laying here. Like, I don't know, man. The couch, it's just like, hey, man, come sit. Just whatever. You know, you can just sit here and chill. You know, eyes open the whole time. You just watch TV. You could even just read on the couch. But hey, you know, if you feel like sleeping, I am person length, so. Oh my God. Okay, excuse me. There's a crisis happening. I'm gonna put one of my videos on. How about that? Not my Google account. The people and other entities who benefit from that system. Hey, welcome to Radicalize Me. This side poofed a lot more than this one today. You never know what you're going to get with curly hair. So this video is going to be a response to a long tweet from Hank Green. Hank is, of course, one of the Vlog brothers. I actually like some of Hank's work. I've always had points of disagreement with him politically, but I'm not trying to attack him. I'm just calling out what I think is a harmful attitude in modern politics, which is what he's doing too, and he has every right to. So let's get into it. We will be reading through the whole post, just not all at once. I'll respond as we go through it.
I think a harm of online activism is the "this is actually easy" argument.
Already, I think there's a problem here. Maybe someone really says this is actually easy, but more often the left is saying this is not complicated in response to liberals insisting that it is, whatever the issue at hand may be. And at least in my experience, liberals interpret this is not complicated as this is actually easy. Consider Israel and Palestine. Liberals love to say this issue is complicated. Both sides have done bad things. Both have a claim to the land. We should have a two-state solution, but it's so complicated to do it. Here's the thing. If you want to say the details of the history are complicated, or the logistics of actually implementing a solution are complicated, even if both sides agree to it, fine. No one's arguing that this would all be done with a magic wand. But the point is that the problem is not nearly as complicated as you've been told. The right and wrong here is just not that hard. Palestine and Israel have both attacked each other a lot, but Israel has broken more ceasefires and killed more Palestinians than the other way around, and it's not even close. Israel is the settler colony, and Palestinians are the occupied people. Israel is an apartheid state with different rules for Palestinians than for Israelis. They have a blockade against the largest concentration camp in the world called Gaza, and Israel allows thousands of illegal settlers in the West Bank, which is supposed to belong to Palestine. Israel is a nuclear power and has the backing of the U.S., and Palestine essentially has nothing. There's no comparison. But liberals want you to think the solution is complicated because the problem is complicated. So it's going to take a little bit longer, a little bit longer, a little bit longer to fix it. And they assume that all parties want to fix it. I promise you, Israel and the U.S. and the weapons manufacturers in each are not dying to solve this problem.
I've seen lots of people indicate that a single billionaire could solve homelessness, or that there are 30 times more houses than homeless people, so we could just give them all houses. These words are fantastic for activating people, but they're also lies. The U.S. government currently spends around $50 billion per year keeping people housed. States, of course, have their own budgets. If Bill Gates spent the same amount of money the U.S. does just to keep people housed, he'd be out of money in 3 years. I think that would be a great use of his money, but it would not be a permanent solution.
I think he's actually right about the Bill Gates thing. Although, since most of his wealth is probably in shares of Microsoft, who knows if he could even cash all of that out? Even if he did it a little at a time, I'm not sure if that would boost or crash the stock. But sure, regardless, not a permanent solution. But I'm struggling with the 50 billion number. I'm not sure where he got that, and it's actually on the very low end of the numbers I'm seeing. There does seem to be a lot of variation between sources, but I'm betting this is more due to corrections made over time and some ambiguity in what federal housing spending actually counts as housing assistance. I found a report from the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, which is a research institute, which says the Fed spent $90 billion on housing assistance in 2021, and that this was a 70% increase over the previous year, which puts 2020 at around $63 billion, which is closer to Hank's number. But I also found this report from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, which says we spent $190 billion in 2015, which is $100 billion more than the other number if you're following along at home. But this is what I mean. I think different sources on this are just making judgment calls on what does and doesn't count as housing assistance. Keep in mind that Trump made some significant cuts to housing assistance, but not $130 billion, so who knows? But my point is that however much money it is, it's not getting to where it needs to go. The title of that CBPP article I'm pulling from is Federal Housing Spending is Poorly Matched to Need. They write,
federal housing expenditures favor higher income households. The 7 million households with incomes of $200,000 or more receive a larger share of such spending than the more than 50 million households with incomes of $50,000 or less, even though lower income families are more likely to struggle to afford housing.
So while the federal government spends even more than Hank said they do on housing, most of that goes to tax benefits for higher income homeowners. There's just not enough going to actual housing assistance, public housing, or even the stupid Section 8 vouchers. We literally have the programs in place, and while I'm not going to say it's just an easy one-step fix, a huge part of the solution is just spending the goddamn money. Moving the existing budget around, negotiating more spending into a bill. There are ways to do it. Every study where a government simply puts homeless people into housing units with no eligibility requirements works. Every basic income study works. The subjects don't sit around jerking off and doing heroin all day. They use the boost to get their lives back on track.
The statistics about there being more houses than homeless are just fake. They rely on looking at extremely low estimates of homelessness, which are never used in any other context, and include normal vacancy rates. An apartment is counted as vacant even if it's only vacant for a month, while the landlord is finding a new tenant. In a country with 150 million housing units, a 2% vacancy rate is 3 million units, which, yes, is greater than the homeless population, but a 2% vacancy rate is extremely low and bad because it means there's fewer available units than there are people looking to move, which drives the price of rent even higher.
As far as I know, this is mostly true. It's hard to get an accurate count of available housing units because of what he's saying here. So yeah, don't take meme statistics at face value.
Housing should not be an option in this country. It should be something we spend tons of money on. It should be a priority for every leader and every citizen. It should also be interfaced with real complex ways. And it should be remembered that the main way we solve the problem is building more housing, which I find a whole lot of my peers in seemingly progressive spaces are actually opposed to. Sometimes they are opposed to it because they've heard stats that the problem is simple and could be solved very easily if only we would just decide to solve it, which is doing real damage.
I'm not sure what he's talking about here, and side note, I still don't really understand what a progressive is supposed to be, but my understanding of the leftist or socialist position is that when we need housing, government should fucking build housing and make it universally available at cost. If you don't think that would work, then I need you to go watch this video about Vienna's public housing program. Since he doesn't specify the circumstances in which the left is opposed to building housing, I'm guessing he's referring to the fact that we don't think deregulation and luxury apartment developments or swaths of single-family homes are the way to solve this. In which case, Yeah, we're right. Luxury developments spike rental prices, and even when they're required to include a number of low income units, they often find loopholes or the measure gets completely shut down by NIMBYs. Maybe Hank is doing some projection here because build more housing is kind of an oversimplified way to present this issue.
By telling the simplest version of the story, you can get people riled up, but what do you do with that once they're riled up if they were riled up by lies? There are only two paths. Number one, tell them the truth, that everything they've been told is actually a lie, and that the problem is actually hard. And because the problem is both big and hard, tons of people are working very hard on it, and they should be grateful for, or even become, one of those people. Number two, keep lying until they are convinced that the problem does not exist because it is hard. It exists because people are evil. Or, I guess number three, people could just be angry and sad all the time, which is also not great for affecting real change.
Okay, so number one, everything you've been told is a lie is another exaggeration he makes here that I don't think is helpful or accurate. And while I agree that there are people throughout government, nonprofits, and the charity world who work very hard on behalf of homeless people and even get some of them housed, the fact is that much of the work they do is not designed to end homelessness, but to put a Band-Aid on it, or maybe chip away at the edges of the problem if you're lucky. It's nothing against the people doing this work. It's just that bourgeois government, NGOs, and charity work are the only options presented to us in a capitalist society, especially capitalism with American characteristics. And capitalism has no interest in ending homelessness. Number two, while I don't find the term evil particularly useful, I think it's wrong to say that the problem exists because it is hard. The problem may be hard, but it exists because our system treats housing as a commodity and investment vehicle rather than fucking shelter. And the people and other entities who benefit from that system work very hard and spend a lot of money to keep it the way it is. And I'd love to see Hank have the same amount of smoke for the housing profiteers that he does for well-meaning, if goofy people on Twitter. The fact is, to solve problems of human misery like homelessness, at some point, you have to do things that upset these powerful people and institutions who benefit from jacking up housing prices. I make no secret of the fact that I would like to abolish capitalism, and it's worth noting that past and current socialist experiments like China, Cuba, and the USSR severely reduced or virtually ended homelessness. But even places which have not gone this far have made massive strides. I mentioned Vienna before. Austria is not exactly communist. Finland, the Netherlands, Utah, it can be done, and it's being done right now. And that's not to say it's easy or simple, it's to say we should do it. And we should start by correctly identifying the root of the problem. Speaking of which, Hank ends this tweet with one of my most hated political sentiments.
We do not have any big, easy problems. If we did, they'd be solved. I'm sorry. It's a bummer. But here we are.
This is a lazy, uncritical, thought-terminating cliche. If it was easy, we would have solved it. No. Like I said before, there are competing interests in society, and some of them don't want to solve problems like homelessness. More public housing might force corporate landlords to lower their rents or spend more money improving their properties. Billionaires, CEOs, and investors don't like that because in an increasingly financialized economy like ours, every company's job is not only to do whatever they can to keep increasing the rate of profit, which has a tendency to fall, by the way, but to keep stock prices climbing at all costs. If they can do that by dumping money into throwing up a bunch of high-rises with inflated rents, that's what they'll do. And they won't be too keen on competing with publicly owned land and housing complexes, so if they have to buy off the city council and the state house to prevent those, they'll do that too. Please, if you never learn anything else from me, internalize the idea that there are people in society who are incentivized to keep good things from happening. We don't all want the same things. So those of us who do should be coming together to fight the ones who don't. That involves creating a new system that excludes those incentives. We'll never get anywhere just playing around in the sandbox that the ruling class has built for us. Thanks for watching. If you like what we do here, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help keep the channel going, you can help us out over on Patreon. Bye now. They come up with a scheme to gradually steal small amounts of money. Welcome to Radicalize Me. If you like what we do here, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're feeling real passionate, you can also support us on Patreon for early access to videos and other cool stuff. Thank you so much to all the new subscribers. We got a little bit of a boost with the last video about the Young Turks. Really appreciate everyone watching, everyone subscribing. I hope you enjoy this one and everything coming up too. Well, it's come to this. I'm making a good actually video. Over the past few years, the subreddit r/anti-work has made some waves with its justified criticism of employers. The pandemic and its subsequent fallout revealed the utter disdain that the bourgeois have for the working class, on top of the exploitation and abuse the bourgeois dole out every day, and our anti-work provided a release valve attracting workers of all industries. Anti-work memes seeped out of Reddit and into the larger internet, introducing a new lexicon we could use to complain about work. This is where we got the screenshots of people standing up to their bosses and quitting by text message, memes like "stop normalizing the grind," and users firing back at workplace platitudes like "we're a family here."
At this job, we're a family. No, we're co-workers. We're in a store, not a Vin Diesel movie.
I like that workers are speaking out and questioning the undying respect we're told to have for our bosses, but I hope that it leads everyone to revolutionary conclusions rather than to cynicism and nihilism. If I can impart just one thing to you, let it be that you don't hate work, you hate capitalism. Work is good. Work is a natural part of life, and while our goal should always be to minimize it as much as possible, it's always going to be there. Capitalism ruined work by lionizing the profit motive, which incentivized capitalists to squeeze every last drop of value out of the workers. That's why you're exhausted. That's why you feel like you can't even live life during your precious few hours of the week you're not at work. Work is supposed to provide something for you, produce a meaningful output. You build a chair, now you have a chair. You grow food, now you have food to eat. You build a guitar, you get to play it. You make music, people get to hear it. But a lot of us now are, as Marx would say, alienated from our work. You might sell tens, hundreds, or even thousands of items a day that you can't afford to buy even one of. You might build machines all day and then get paid a wage that doesn't even come close to the value that machine will create for someone else. You might harvest food all day and not have enough food to eat at home. And all of this work results in so much surplus food or machinery or Funko Pops that your boss can't sell it all. And all of that shit gets thrown in the garbage. Seriously, literally, it's all trashed. Supermarkets and restaurants will fill dumpsters with unsold, perfectly good food and either pour bleach on it or have police guard it so you can't steal any. Because any product given away for free devalues that product, and then the capitalists can't make a profit or as much of a profit, and that's way, way worse than people starving to death. The point is, all this work, all this surplus, all this value represents the incredible productive forces built up under capitalism. It's okay for us to acknowledge and appreciate this aspect of capitalism, much like Marx himself did. But now it's time to move beyond capitalism so we can thrive and enjoy the abundance we have all worked together to create. This doesn't mean we won't have to work at all under socialism or communism, but we wouldn't have to overwork. When the profit motive is replaced by a planned economy oriented to the needs of the proletariat, there will be no need to spend as much time at work as we currently do. We'll create what needs to be created, sell what needs to be sold, move what needs to be moved, and that's it. We can have a 4 or 6 hour workday. It's not impossible. You've just been told it is, because the 8-hour day is the shortest workday the capitalists are currently willing to put up with, in most cases. I'm not immune from the anti-work attitude. I often hate doing much of anything beyond making music, playing video games, and just hanging out. But when I started my full-time job, I realized that a job is just a job, and it doesn't have to define you. The biggest problem with it is the 8-hour day, which most jobs are going to make you do. It's fucking exhausting, but otherwise it's fine. I enjoy the work, I believe in the product, my coworkers are cool, and it feels good to contribute to something. We, like the rest of the working class, just need to be liberated from the oppressive drive of the profit motive. I grew up in the 90s, which was kind of the heyday of media about hating work. The Big Lebowski and Office Space especially come to mind. In The Big Lebowski, instead of pitting the millionaire capitalist Jeff Lebowski against a socialist or even a more vague, hardworking man of the people, it's Jeff the Dude Lebowski.
His dudeness or duder or, El Duderino.
A lazy slacker who has pretty much checked out of society. But all the dude really cares about is getting his rug back.
They really tied the room together.
I'm not even saying it's a bad movie. I actually liked it. But it did feed this empty, hollow anti-work critique that ran rampant in the larger culture back then. Office Space is another great example. It's super cathartic to watch a guy go from normal everyday life to completely turning on the business he works for and all of society's expectations. When Ron and his friends hit their breaking point, they come up with a scheme to gradually steal small amounts of money from Initech.
How is that not stealing?
I don't think that I'm explaining this very well.
The goal being to take enough money under the radar over time that they won't have to work anymore, which is a pretty good allegory for capitalist enterprise now that I think of it. But just like The Big Lebowski, Office Space ultimately offers an empty critique of work with no revolutionary conclusions. Now again, I like this movie, and I'm not trying to say it's bad. For my 14th or 15th birthday, I just had a bunch of friends over to watch Office Space. It warms my heart to see the guys destroy the printer, and the damn it feels good to be a gangster sequence is iconic. These are joyous fantasies, but they're just that, fantasy. You could do that stuff. You could do a cyber heist against your employer, but what does that accomplish? These are just small acts of defiance amidst a larger system you have no control over. It's spitting in the ocean because you got wet. For more on this topic, I recommend reading Why Marxists Oppose Individual Terrorism by Leon Trotsky. If you don't like Trotsky, sorry, eat my shorts. You don't have to be a hardcore Trotskyite.
Hardcore Trotskyites. Hardcore.
But it's a good short piece about the futility of individual terror and the importance of organization, strategy, and most importantly, numbers in any revolutionary action. To Trotsky's point, I don't criticize what the guys in Office Space do because I think they should respect their employer and ask nicely for a raise or something. The problem is they don't accomplish anything and certainly don't break out of the capitalist mold. Like, okay, they stole some money from Initech. Cool. Initech already stole money from them through profits, which are the unpaid wages of the working class. So what's wrong with taking it back? Nothing. Except that their co-workers who are not in on the scheme don't get their money back, and even if they were to get away with it, they've done nothing to change the capitalist paradigm. Now, spoiler alert, but it's been 24 years, go watch it. The movie ends with the character Milton burning down the Initech building because someone took his stapler. And yes, Setting the fire is more individual terrorism that Trotsky would not approve of. But at this channel, we offer critical support to Comrade Milton. With Initech out of business, Ron and his friends end up working construction, and Ron tries to rationalize it even though they're clearly not happy there either.
This isn't so bad, huh? Making bucks, getting exercise, working outside.
Fucking A.
Fucking A.
Maybe this is meant as a statement about how all work is miserable under capitalism, but let's be clear that there's nothing wrong with working construction or working in an office, and both should be compensated well with plenty of time off. But this is the problem you get when you have anti-work in place of class consciousness. An empty, dead-ended set of grievances which don't and can't solidify into real societal change. I also want to quickly touch on the anti-work messaging aimed at teenagers in the 90s, because it's similar, but it has some notable differences. Daria is a good example. I never really watched this show at the time, but I've seen enough screen time at this point. It's about a dour teenage girl who's too cool for everything, too smart for everything, and can't wait to be free from high school and her suburban imprisonment. It's a well-done show, but it's a bit cringe. I actually identify with Daria because I was like this in high school, and it's no coincidence that I went to high school at the tail end of this era of cynical, against all authority content. The problem with media like Daria is the short-sighted view of life under capitalism, and, as always, the distinct lack of class consciousness. Daria wants to get out of high school, out of her town, whatever, so she can, what? Go to some other town? Experience life in a big city? After high school, she'll have to go to college or start working, or both, and definitely have to work after college. And work and college are both firmly within the capitalist system. Maybe she'll have some cool job that she likes, but odds are she'll live a similar life to her parents if she's lucky, given that, assuming the show took place in real time, she's an elder millennial, and the 2008 crash happened less than a decade after she graduated high school. This type of empty critique just amounts to complaining, and it doesn't lead anywhere. This is just my own conjecture, but I truly believe that this is why so many people end up miserable. Now that we know what flawed critiques of work look like, let's take a look at a good one. King of the Hill, wow, Mike Judge really dominated the 90s, was a masterful satire of not only the American South, but of capitalism and the political and socioeconomic landscape of the 90s. The reason I say King of the Hill did a better job of critiquing work is that it was aware of its place in time. It's historically materialist. The writer Francis Fukuyama branded the post-Cold War era the end of history, the idea being that capitalism and liberal democracy had defeated fascism and communism, and now we were at the peak of organized human society. The contradiction is that, at this time, 2 decades of politicians whittling away at the labor movement and the social safety net had put workers in a precarious position, with their wages no longer keeping pace with inflation and productivity. We've talked about Roseanne on this channel before, a show that also did an incredible job portraying this reality in the late 80s. However cringe Roseanne herself ended up in the current day. King of the Hill grabbed the torch in the 90s when superstores like Walmart were aggressively taking over communities all over the US, putting smaller shops out of business. While I don't fetishize small businesses and the petty bourgeois, there's a good lesson about alienation in Hank's work experience. There's an episode where he loses his job at the propane shop and is forced to take a job working in the propane aisle at Megalomart, essentially Walmart. This episode maintains an intelligent critique of the megastore phenomenon throughout. It starts with Hank trying to find batteries at Megalomart, getting directions from several employees before accidentally going through an emergency exit door with no re-entry. It's an absurd end to the scene, but we've all probably had the experience of trying to find one simple goddamn thing in a store that's way too fucking big. Then, this place Hank hates starts advertising that they sell propane and propane accessories, which threatens the existence of his job.
And now Megalomart has propane and propane accessories.
Propane at Megalomart?
Bobby, leave the room.
You
bastards!
If you know the show, you know that Hank takes great pride in his work at the store where he sells propane and propane accessories. We see the impotence of small business here because an economy of atomized shops and consumers can't fight back against the power of a monopoly. The only thing that can beat a monopoly is a state monopoly. But Hank ultimately loses his job at the propane shop and has to go work in the propane section of Megalomart, hilariously managed by his niece's idiot boyfriend Buckley. Buckley, of course, has no idea what he's doing and mostly gives Hank menial tasks unrelated to actually selling propane and propane accessories. Again, Hank always took a lot of pride in his work at the propane store. He was still employed by a capitalist, but he had a direct connection with the product and the customer base, and could clearly live a decent life and support a family of 4. The alienation was less severe. The megastore is a joyless, lifeless environment where his skills are not valued. Spoiler alert, his Megalomart job doesn't last long, but in just a few scenes from this one episode, they make a pretty strong statement about the value of work and how the changing landscape of capitalism continues to degrade it. Thanks for watching. As always, please do the things, support if you can, and we'll see you next time. Bye now. If you've seen my videos, you know that I'm a Star Trek fan, and I believe that the Federation of Planets in Star Trek is a socialist society, or at least close to one. I made a deep dive video about this a while ago. I'm a lot more educated now than I was then, and I could probably do it better now, but I'm not about to remake the whole thing. Let's just do a quick breakdown. In the Federation, no one has to pay for their basic needs. Characters like to say that there's no money in the future.
Money doesn't exist in the 24th century.
They're still using money. We gotta find something.
And money went the way of the dinosaur.
This whole no money socialist utopia.
Humans used to be a lot like Ferengi. Greedy, acquisitive, interested only in profit.
They do have Federation credits, which I assume are doled out as some kind of basic income, and maybe you get extra if you work a job. And that's why to them, they don't have money or a monetary system in the way that we do. You can spend credits at places like Cisco's Creole Kitchen or Chateau Picard or the Zephram Cochrane theme park or whatever. But again, you don't have to pay for housing, basic food, clothing, etc. I would definitely call this socialism or part of socialism. It's probably not entirely accurate to call it communism, but no doubt the Federation has abolished capitalism. You can have a little shop or even a vineyard that's been in your family for centuries, but private ownership of major resources and utilities seems to be gone. Starfleet doesn't... Okay, I'm back. Thank you for sticking around if you did. If you just got here, it looks like someone just got here. Welcome. Thanks for coming. I guess I'll finish this video. I mean, I'm just like pumping my own content here, but like, sue me. You can't. I would have to sue myself. No, it's I like this video, and I want to show my fucking YouTube shit to people. So let's keep it going, and I'll just pop in with some commentary now and then, so that I have fair use of my own video. Seem to have worker councils, but no society is perfect, socialist or not. Now comes the annoying part. When this topic comes up, a lot of people will counter that the Federation is not socialist, it's post-scarcity. I even got this recently in a conversation with a writer from one of the Star Trek series. I don't want to out them, so I won't say which one, and there's like 50, so you won't guess. I'm feeling spicy, so I'm going to say which series. I'm not going to say what season, what episode. I'm feeling spicy. So I'm going to tell you, it was a writer from Strange New Worlds, which is a show I love. But they had a little, do we have a chat? Oh, hello, Comrade Martino Frappuccino. Thanks so much for being here. Are you on YouTube? That's awesome. All right. Stick around. We're talking about socialism.
Okay, what the fuck does post-scarcity mean? Well, they have the replicator, so they don't need to fight over resources. Oh boy. We'll get to the replicator in a moment, but I have to tell you, we're already in a post-scarcity society. We just don't act like it.
You best start believing in post-scarcity societies, because you're in one.
We have enough food for 10 billion people.
Anyone enjoy that 25-year-old reference I put in here? I know nothing really gets old now, like pop culture wise, because everything gets like 14 sequels. But yeah, that's from the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, which came out. What the fuck? When did that come out? 2001 or 2 or 3, something like that. I'm an old boy.
We have enough housing and clothing and medicine for everyone because we have built up an incredible productive force on this planet over the past few centuries. This building of productive forces is what capitalism is actually good at. But once we hit this point, it makes sense to switch gears, keep the production, but work on distribution, which is what socialism is good at. Which brings us to the replicator. The replicator is a machine that can resequence matter to create most food, clothing, and materials as needed, a super advanced...
This is even more self-indulgent than just playing my own videos. It's the fact that I can hear every imperfection in my voice and everything. Obviously, like, you know, that's natural when you're listening to a recording of yourself. I've gotten better at just overlooking these things because for years, I have done, I've recorded music and singing and stand-up comedy and now this. So, like, I'm fine with it. But if you hear a lot of, like, kind of mouth sounds, if there's a lot of sort of moisture, we'll say, it's because when I make these videos, I have, whether I'm on camera or not, like, you'll hear it when I have to talk that much. I need to put like cough drops and like dry mouth pellets in my mouth because my mouth gets so fucking dry. It's a nightmare. So you'll hear me be like, Star Trek. But I don't know. It's fine. I don't think it's bad, but I always notice it. And now you will too.
Advanced 3D printer. Now, motherfuckers who don't read their theory seem to think that if someone invented the replicator, capitalism would disappear and we'd all have everything we need and live in perfect harmony. This is your brain on liberalism. I'll tell you what would happen if the replicator came into the picture today. Workers would have to build them. Even if some of the process was automated, you would need workers along the way, and they'd likely be sweatshop workers in overexploited third world countries. Then you'd have to pay at least several $100s, I would assume, to get a consumer market replicator. And how do you work it? You think you can just ask for anything like Picard does? Fuck that, peasant. You're gonna have to pay a monthly subscription fee to use the machine and pay to license the recipes. You want to replicate a shirt? Cool. Make sure you subscribed at Tier 1 so you have access to the Old Navy line of replicator pods. Yup, you're living in the glorious future, paying for fucking Old Navy K-cups so that human progress and ingenuity never liberate us from the oppressive profit motive. But wait, you forgot to upgrade the operating system. Uh-oh, you're late for work, you got no shirt, and your magic machine is still loading. We have a pretty good model of what capitalists would do with replicators in the Ferengi, who are the stand-ins for capitalists in Star Trek. I don't think they really use replicators on Ferenginar, but Quark certainly replicates food and drinks in his restaurant on Deep Space Nine, and then he sells them, and the Federation doesn't even charge him rent.
I couldn't ask for better landlords.
This is how the pharmaceutical industry works, by the way. Research is paid for by your tax money, and then Pfizer sells medications to you for profit. In capitalist America, you pay twice. Or look at the Voyager episode False...
Speaking of old-ass references, although I guess a lot of Star Trek is that old or older too, so I shouldn't feel too bad. And if I'm into older media, there's no reason kids now couldn't be. But But I think there's so much new shit now all the time. Maybe it's harder. I don't know. If you're young, let me know.
Profits. Two Ferengi steal a replicator and go through a wormhole to the Delta Quadrant, where they convince a primitive society that they're gods. Good old-fashioned space imperialism. And the benefit of Marxism, of dialectical and historical materialism, is you avoid getting stuck in these garbage dump areas of thought where you rely on mysticism to make the world change on its own.
You can see the troubles you get into, the swamps you go into, the baby talk silliness you get into when you think without Marx, when you think without class analysis.
You have to make it change. Painstaking.
That's Michael Parenti. He is one of the greatest socialist academics and researchers and writers of the modern era. He's still around. He's very old. I think he's suffering from dementia and shit. But highly recommend his work. There's actually on my channel, there is, and that's where I got this clip from. It's a cleaned up version of what's often called the Yellow Parenti speech, because it's this old grainy shitty footage from the 80s. That's all yellow for some reason. I left him yellow, of course, but there's like a horrible like hiss, like buzz kind of thing going throughout the whole fucking thing. So I cleaned up the audio a little, put it up on my channel. Check it out. But he's written a million books. Against Empire is like a really good starter book for if you're trying to learn about American imperialism in the world.
Step by painstaking step, examining the changing conditions along the way and acting accordingly. In the Trek universe, it took World War III, the invention of faster-than-light travel, and a tense, century-long conservatorship under the Vulcans to get to the advanced society we see in the shows. I also theorize that there must have been some kind of revolution during that time, whether carried out by the Vulcans, human communists, or both. The post-World War III era was dominated by warlords and dictators. People were condemned to death by barbaric show trials. Many lived in a wasteland of nuclear fallout. The harmonious United Earth and Federation didn't happen overnight because someone invented the fucking replicator or otherwise magically accumulated more resources than we have now. In fact, they probably had much fewer resources in a devastated world. I think the most important point about Star Trek socialism is that we couldn't have a lot of the positive aspects of the Federation without a socialist revolution. In addition,
that is super important. All right, so the stories in Star Trek never explicitly say, we could get into quibbling over that, but like they never explicitly say, okay, there was a socialist revolution and now humankind is kind of awesome. But the world that they show you in Star Trek, meaning especially Earth, right? So human society, Earth society, and presumably Federation society, could not happen without socialism. All right? Go fuck yourself if you don't if you don't think, because you can't have again the fair distribution of resources, not just like, oh, a fucking replicator, great. And I guarantee you could invent the replicator under capitalism, and then we could have a socialist revolution and like overthrow the powers keeping us from using the replicator to feed everyone and provide for everyone. Or you can invent the replicator under socialism and it would just be used more fairly. Either way, there's no particular economic system required to build the replicator. It's just a matter of development and resources. So, yeah. Just fucking... the replicator is not the socialism. The replicator needs the socialism to make the replicator a socialist tool for, providing for everybody. And that's just what everyone misses. I kind of argued this already in the video, but again, it's like now we have incredible productive capacity. We have just amazing technology. We have supply chains that people could only dream of 100 years ago, 50 years ago, even, It's a little closer to what we have 50 years ago, but the technology that we have, the types of centralized, planned economic structures of, say, Amazon, Walmart. Literally, like, what is stopping Amazon from just being a distribution service that is there to meet human need? What is keeping it from being that? And if you some might argue, oh, that's what it is. That's just how it works. You couldn't have it without capitalism. Like, no, get fucked. You could get rid of Jeff Bezos. You could get rid of the, whoever, I don't know if he's the CEO now, whoever's the CEO and the board now. You can take the aspect of you could have stakeholders under socialism. Probably you could have a market socialism, or you could have they are, if you're a stakeholder, you're provided in some other way than share value based on projected profits and whatever. But you can just take the profit motive out of it, the requirement that you ever increase profits, which is impossible, which Marx tells us. And it's also just obvious, but that's a lot of Marxism. As you read it, you're like, yeah, wait, yeah, of course. But that's the thing. You just take that out, and then what do you have? You have something where people could pay at cost. People could pay, okay, what's it going to take to get you this toaster you need? What does that take? Oh, it takes transport, and it takes paying workers to drive it and whatever. Okay. So you pay based on that. You pay based on that, and not based on, oh, we got to, this quarter, we got to get up above what we were year over year from the last quarter. No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What the measure of success is meeting human need, right? So we could do that with Amazon, and yeah, the prices are low, but they could be lower. They could be lower, and it could just be getting people what they fucking need. That's what I want you to understand here, because, again, a lot of people will say this shit like, oh, because of the replicator, they don't need capitalism, or they don't need socialism. They don't need any of that because they have the replicator. And it's like, no, the fucking replicator would be gate kept under capitalism. And only under socialism would it be used in the way it's used in Star Trek, which is, and show to show, some of them are like, oh, we have like certain amount of credits we can use for the replicator, and higher ranking Starfleet people have more, whatever. Even if it's that, still everyone has access to it. People have them in their house. You know what I mean? You don't have to be rich enough to fucking buy one. And we could even assume society uses one to provide for people. But that's the thing. That's the thing. I'm a little long-winded, so I'll cut it there.
In addition to abolishing private ownership of resources, the Federation has a strong central government with many regional member states, all of whom joined voluntarily. This is, despite what you may have heard, very similar to the USSR. And while we never explicitly hear about central planning, that wouldn't be terribly exciting on a TV show, again, we can infer that they have a centrally planned economy, because that's how every nation that has abolished or severely limited the profit motive organizes and distributes resources. No one's toiling away on Earth or Vulcan or Andoria at a shit job for 8 hours a day just to survive. They work if they want to, or if they want to earn additional credits, but they're free. Most labor is automated. And before you say that's just another aspect of whatever nebulous post-scarcity society you think it is, Marx actually theorized that automation could be a big part of what gets us to communism. Starfleet, a state agency, is clearly the largest employer, and while it functions as their military, its goals are largely exploratory and not imperialist, besides a few cringe exceptions.
This planet will be handed over to the Cardassian government in accordance with the terms of the border agreement, but you will have to leave. And if we do not, then I will be forced to remove you.
No nation state is going to be perfect. So why does any of this matter? Obviously, the comparison isn't one-to-one, and just because the Federation's methods work in a fictional show doesn't exactly prove that they would all work in real life. The important thing is that, whether the writers know it or not, it's a demonstration of how these things could work in real life, with some ideas even taken from the real world. This type of speculative fiction is extremely important, especially in sci-fi and especially in Star Trek. MRI machines apparently function similarly to the tricorder. Cell phones were inspired in part by the original communicators from TOS. Again, 3D printing technology is like a primitive version of the replicator. Machine learning, holographic imagery, video calling, tablet devices, all this stuff was predicted in Star Trek or even earlier sci-fi, and we can take the same inspiration from societal formations in fiction. Thanks for watching. If you like what we do here, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you can, help us out on Patreon. Bye now.
All right, so that's that video. That is my YouTube, Radicalize Me, and I now have @RadicalizeMe as a handle on YouTube. So you can always find me that way. @Radicalize Me. Okay. What the hell am I? Stop it. Stop it. Okay. Cool. I want to look at this. Kamala Harris takes 8-point lead over Donald Trump in new poll. So I guess it's just one poll, but this is probably a big deal. And just to make a quick statement about Kamala Harris, I don't like Kamala Harris. Tim Walz is like fine. He's pretty good as governors go. And I'm on a path now where I don't see the Democratic Party as like much of a tool of liberation for anyone. So I'm a little bit removed from this election. I mean, Trump does scare the shit out of me. I think he's really starting to lose steam. I think he's scared to go out much because he got shot. And yeah, so but the thing about Harris is, so far, she has not demonstrated that she would be that much different from Biden. I do think, and, to speak to some of the excitement there is about Harris Walz, I kind of get it. Like, I feel better knowing that, like, all right, well, they're probably better than Biden. Again, haven't seen that much from Harris to suggest that, but the Democratic Party taking Biden off the ticket, replacing him with Kamala, and then Kamala choosing Walz, those two decisions suggest a party that is in some way responding to its base, which is good. It's a sign we haven't seen in a while from the Democrats. And I think that one piece of context that's important to remember and keep in mind is that, yeah, the Democratic Party has, done small things for people. And even recently, you can find a couple of things. They're not good, and they means test shit and all whatever. But Democratic Party has, we have gotten reforms and response from them before. But yeah, because the thing is, I think we all forgot that that's possible because frankly, even Obama sucked, but like it was still like a little bit more of the old Democratic Party then. But the Clinton Biden era of the Democratic Party, say 2015 through today, because Obama's presidency was waning and it was Hillary's time, and then she didn't win, but still had major influence over the party, over what was being said and done in response to Trump. She keeps showing up to fucking talk, and she's, I hate her. But and then Biden is a fucking nightmare. So we forgot that, like, okay, there is a version of the Democratic Party that's like trying to win, first of all, that is somewhat responsive to its base, at least on little things like, okay, yeah, like we'll rearrange the ticket this way, and they haven't they've changed rhetoric a little bit. They haven't like really committed to any policy change though. So that's where we come back to. I'm like, I don't know yet. I would have to see change, and yeah, even as like a third party Andy at this point, like I'm kind of just like, I'm a socialist. I'm going to vote for socialists. I'm going to vote for Claudia de la Cruz and Karina Garcia from the Party for Socialism and Liberation. But I'll say this. If we can get Harris to commit to a real ceasefire, ideally an arms embargo, but at the very least cutting off arms until this shit ends, just that, the bare minimum, end the fucking siege of Gaza, the genocide of Gaza, end that, I will consider voting for her. I'll say fine. And it's tricky because, like, I get that she's part of the Biden administration. That doesn't mean she's like not allowed to say anything, by the way. But I get that, it's like a tricky political zone to be in. Fine. And she's vice president, doesn't really make decisions for the admin. We can't see her do it until she's in office. Fine. But like, if we at least get the commitment and she makes some strides in, like, okay, appoint some other people to like a transition team or just advisors on the campaign, whatever, like point some of these people who are like protesting you right now, fucking be bold about it. Make some real fucking changes now. Make a commitment to what you will do when you enter office. Then fine. I'd say, all right, yeah. If you give us that, like, I think it is worth knowing that one of these two assholes will win. I'll choose this asshole. But yeah, I'm not super comfortable anymore. Just doing the like, well, any blue is better than red. Like, fuck off. I'm tired of like being browbeaten and plied with fear and shit to do this. But yeah, if we get real commitments, then I'll think about doing it. I'll probably do it. So yeah, it's not good enough. It's not good enough what we've seen so far. And I think it's pretty sad that people have immediately jumped on board to such an extent that, they're just ready to accept her as she is without any, anything. Okay, so but let's see what happened with this poll. Kamala Harris has taken an 8 percentage point lead over Donald Trump, according to new poll. The survey conducted by Marquette Law School between July 24th and August 1st shows that when third-party candidates are included, Harris leads among likely voters with 50% of the vote to Trump's 42. That's impressive. The surge by Harris has improved the Democrats' position since May, when Trump was leading with 44% of the vote to Joe Biden's 41. Harris is also leading among registered voters with 47% of the vote to Trump's 41. In Marquette Law School's last poll in May, Trump was 3 points ahead of Biden among registered voters, securing 40% of the vote to the president's 37. So, and that's if they're including third party in that as well, I assume, because that's what they compared it to. That's insane. It's insane how many people were going to vote for like RFK over Biden or like Jill Stein or whatever. Harris is also leading her opponent in a head-to-head matchup with a support of 52% of registered voters, while Trump is the choice for 48%. Okay. I don't always understand all these different numbers they use. Among likely voters, Harris received 53% likely voters. Okay, so it's registered voters. Now it's likely voters. Harris received 53% and Trump 47%. That's a landslide by modern standards. Yeah, that's like I think Obama might have won by not quite that much, but close to that in 2008. Okay. The results include voters who initially did not choose Harris or Trump, but who were then asked whom they would vote for if they had to choose. Okay. Improvement for the Democrats in head-to-head. Right. So, poll surveyed 879 registered voters and 683 likely voters at a margin of error of plus or minus 4 percentage points. Dude, this is how much I fucking hate math. Like, what is the margin of error, and how do they know what it is, and how do you calculate it, and who decide? Like, what the fuck is that? Like, it's possible that we're wrong by 4 points this way or that way. Okay. How? But whatever, it's it is some of the best info we have, and that's how it is. But yeah, I don't know. I do really like the PSL. I like Claudia de la Cruz and Karina Garcia. I hope they get some traction. It's hard to know because I don't think they've been included in a lot of polling, which probably means that there's not a lot of support for them. But who knows? Jill Stein is still polling at I think the last I saw was 0.9%. And I'm like, dude, come on. Like, what the fuck? How is the Green Party so consistently nothing? Like, it's not a real party. I'm seeing from the left, and I guess there always is, but I'm seeing a lot of support for the Green Party just among the left online. And I'm like, why? why? And what I've heard is, oh, they have ballot access in all 50 states and the PSL doesn't. And it's like, okay, so keep getting them ballot access. Like what I'm seeing, because I follow PSL pretty closely, is they have they're on the ballot in like I don't know, half of states, and they're the process is still going in like a bunch of others, and it's like, yeah, it's pretty close to all of like just the thing is PSL is a real organization. Okay. They're they're more of a political party, frankly, than the Green Party or even like the Democratic Party, because it's an organization that you can go and join and go to meetings of right now. And maybe, I guess you can do that with your state Democratic Party, but like, you don't fucking matter in that. Like, what are they doing for anyone? That's the thing, is PSL is a real political organization. They do community work. They have, like, at least here, like, there's the one in New York, and I know they're like, oh, they've gotten Goldman Sachs funding or whatever. And I'm like, okay, all right. Like, that's something to, keep in mind and needs to be investigated more, in my opinion. But like, places give money to things, and I don't know. It's weird, but it's not like, concrete. It's not anything concrete now. But yeah, there's the Liberation Center in New York. There's the Boston Liberation Center. And they do shit there. They have like read-ins and teach-ins and they even have like open mic nights and shit, but they do like real community work too. Whether it's, mutual aid kind of stuff, holding events, holding rallies, kind of co-sponsoring big rallies in the area. So that I like. And, Claudia and Karina, I don't know if they were like voted on within the party. I don't know. That's the one thing that, I've seen people say they just popped out of nowhere. We haven't seen them elsewhere. I'd say, yeah, I get that. You want socialism to be organically kind of emerge out of the working class, and not be something imposed upon the working class. But they are, they're teachers, they're moms, they're just like normal people, and that's good. So I like them. They've been very active in the pro-Palestine movement, the current modern emergence of it, and so has PSL in general. And I just think they're really good. Their policy program is very strong. Green Party, sure, we agree with them on most stuff, but they're just kind of like social liberal, like, I don't know. It just seems like a list of policies rather than a list of like major shifts to make within the political structure, which is what PSL seems to at least understand and be able to articulate. It's just, people are so like, have turned so away from socialism, and there's this sort of like, anti-establishment is sort of the thing that emerged out of 2016. And I understand why Bernie and like associated people use that term. I think it was a way to sort of like, let's talk about, fighting back against capitalism without saying socialism or communism. But the fact is, like, you're never gonna go down that road without coming across socialism and communism, because that is the way we need to go. You need a new framework to go against capitalism. You need that. Otherwise, whatever your intentions are, we're still just like throwing darts at capitalism. Within capitalism. And that's not going to get us anywhere. It's just not. So I would urge people to stop being afraid of socialism and communism. Do your reading. Again, Michael Parenti, there's a really good one. If you're, especially if you're into history and stuff and you want to learn from that perspective, which is very important. Marx talked about historical materialism as part of dialectical materialism. So that's great. But then, read it from someone like Michael Parenti, who's going to put it in the proper context. He didn't fall out of a coconut tree. Yeah, and from a socialist communist perspective. And you can read like Against Empire, which I mentioned earlier, if you want to just learn about like American foreign policy since World War II and imperialism. But then if you want to really get into the nitty gritty of like socialist history, he's got books like Black Shirts and Reds, which is a really cool look at the Soviet Union. And if you think, that I'm recommending you just like pure biased shit, like, no, I mean, he's biased towards communism, like in favor of communism, but like, Black Shirts and Reds is really honest about not only the successes and the triumphs and the sort of everything that was stacked against the Soviet Union. It's also about the fall of the Soviet Union and how, no, it wasn't just like American, investor kind of parasitism. It did fail from within for various kind of cultural reasons and leadership reasons and all this stuff. So I think that's a nice way to go. Yeah, because you can find a lot of like Stalinist shit online that like you might learn from. I mean, there's stuff to learn from it, but if you feel like I don't want to just read like shit that's just as biased from the other direction, I sort of understand. I understand the impulse, and I think that you want to find people who are kind of balanced about this, and if that it will lead you to people who are communists. But that's the thing, is like communists, Marxists, good Marxists who are scientists about it, or attempt to be scientists about it. I don't want to steal valor, but we will be honest about shit, right? Like if someone's telling you like, no, everything was good in Soviet Union, what are you talking about? Stalin did nothing wrong. Like, that's someone you might want to be like, okay, and then go like read real shit or whatever. But I feel the same way about people who just write off Stalin and Mao and whoever else and just say like, none of that was real socialism. Real socialism wouldn't be statist and wouldn't this and that and blah 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 and the workers and the blah, blah, blah. And okay, but like we're talking about the real world. We're still in the real world, and yeah, anything that was like wrong with previous socialism, we can fix or make better, do better next time. I think has been done better each time. So, don't be fucking weird about it. I don't know what I'm saying, man. So I think I'm going to cut it for today. I do think, looks like we've had one viewer for most of this. So if it's just one person that's been here the whole time, I really, really, really appreciate you. Or if you're a different person and it wasn't always the same one, really appreciate you too. But yeah, you guys can check out my YouTube and share stuff if you're so inclined. It's at Radicalize Me. Really want to get eyes on it. I would like to move in the direction of being a content creator and less of like a fucking what I'm doing now. And in order to do that, just need people to see it. So help me out if you can. I have Patreon, patreon.com/radicalize me, where you can give. And I don't have much up on it right now, but because I don't have any patrons at the moment. I had a couple, who, their term ran out and they didn't renew. So what are you going to do? You can't control people. So I'm just asking if you are a fan that you would go and support there. And I will start putting stuff on it as soon as folks are interested. Or maybe I'll just try to put stuff up there so that people go, hey, there's stuff up here. I don't know. But YouTube, either way, YouTube, we're at 932 subscribers. Once we hit 1,000, that's the first level of monetization where people can just, give a buck or two if they want to, and that that could be really great if eyes are getting on it. I think people maybe don't want to always like give a full Patreon subscription, and might feel better about just I'll give you $2. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a shit. Fuck shit. But yeah, thanks you so much for being here. Those of you who popped in, I appreciate you too. Comrade Martino Frappuccino, I love you. And yeah, hopefully we'll do this again. Next weekend might be tough. I might be able to, but I'm going to be out of town. Yeah, I'll try it. We'll see. But anyway,